Greetings and welcomes, patrons of the Xbox Expansion Pass Tier 3. Thank you all so much for supporting Captain Logan and I over on patreon.com/Xbox Expansion Pass. We appreciate you. This week for the Xbox wrap-up, we are going to be looking at some of the gems that are in Xbox Game Pass and really go with our Xbox Game Pass recommends and see what it is that we kind of think everybody should be checking out on there, stuff you might have missed, stuff that we enjoy, stuff that you might enjoy. But thank you all so much for supporting XEP over on Patreon. Logan, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm having fun. It's been it's been pretty crazy the last few weeks. It feels like I feel like I've got a lot that I want to play, and the stuff that I do want to play is all super different from each other. So it's like I'm trying to find like, okay, well, what mood am I going to be in now and stuff. And then we were thinking about like, well, what should we be playing on? Should we be playing on Game Pass and stuff? Because I figured like there's a lot of big titles out right now, but I figured like Game Pass, there's a bunch of stuff leaving soon. And I was like, that's kind of a bummer. So I wanted to see like before more games leave Game Pass, is there anything that I want to recommend to people that they should go check out that we haven't really talked about, because we usually just cover the news? So yeah, I figured that would be a good topic for us to kind of dive into for this week or for this month.
I agree. I think that's a good one. Last month, we talked about our favorite Star Wars games because of the release of Jedi Fallen Order. Prior to that, I think we ranked the Xbox IPs and franchises, which was pretty fun. And then our first episode, which I went back and released publicly at the time of this recording, I went back and released it publicly not too long ago. And it's funny to me to see like how I was editing and working on that then. Yeah. To several months later working on these now. So it's a nice little evolution.
You come a long way. You're working hard on this stuff.
Well, I think if people are, patrons, if you're putting in money to support us and drop tips in the tip jar, these are our thank you for dropping those tips in the tip jar.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's fun. It's fun. Well, look, man, Game Pass, one thing that's funny is we went and started like looking at Xbox Game Pass each separately, and both came away with the distinct impression of like, good Lord, there's a lot of stuff on there. And I've had Game Pass since it was announced. And I've been a user of Game Pass. I'm an explorer of games by nature. So I like to play a lot of stuff. Xbox is great with for me, kind of for that exact reason. I really like that aspect of Game Pass. But because I've had it since the beginning, I hadn't realized just how many great titles are on there, because I've played them kind of as they came out or as they dropped in there. But for somebody who's arriving into Game Pass or has taken kind of time to play their PlayStation or Switch, going back, there's so much there.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a ton in here. And a lot of it is stuff that I'm sure most people you've probably like dabbled in or you're familiar with and stuff. But then there's some in here that even I'm just like, what is this? When did this get dropped in here? Is this any good? And there's definitely a lot that I haven't checked out, but just kind of looking at this, like I know like there's a lot of discussion about how the Switch is kind of like your go-to device if you want to go for like indie titles outside of like Steam. But to be honest, like there's a lot of stuff just on Game Pass that I'm really surprised about that are indie titles that look really interesting, that I'm just like, okay, well, how many people are really paying attention to a lot of that? But also some really big titles that I'm just like, it'd be a real shame if somebody didn't go play this. Just because it's like they know it's there and they're not worried about it not going anywhere and stuff like that. So I was kind of wondering, like, did yours skew more towards like big titles or little titles?
My list, I tried to actually very comfortably find a balance. My conundrum was not in finding big or small titles, but in wanting to find a list. It's like, how do you not just mention Xbox first party? Because we're an Xbox show, but we talk about so much Xbox first party regularly, and just the way that Xbox curates that. It's like, did anybody buy Hi-Fi Rush? Probably not. The majority of people probably dove in on Game Pass. And so like on my list, and I did like, I did, me, I like doing handwritten.
That's a good list too. Damn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff on there, but like what was my list going to comprise of? Hi-Fi Rush and Forza Horizon 5, or did I want to talk about Ori and the 2 Ori games, or did I want to mention things like Ravenlock? Like, I couldn't figure out how I wanted to approach it. Did I want it family friendly or not? But I found the Game Pass app is quite helpful on this because it breaks it apart by genre, and that let me explore a lot of different stuff. So I don't know, man. What were some games? Let's do some indie games first. What are some smaller games that kind of you had your eye on? I'm gonna pull the Game Pass up here just to be full transparency at the time of this recording, because like I wrote my list, but also there was just too much to choose from. Did you have anything that stood out to you on the indie side, like smaller titles that people should absolutely try?
It's funny that you bring up like the family aspect of it, like, what would be good for that, because I wanted to shout out New Super Lucky's Tale, because that's one.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, that's like one that I feel like everyone who's constantly begging for these Banjo-Kazooie games, like if you haven't played New Super Lucky's Tale, you're really missing out, because it's such a cute game, and they really did a good job, especially with the New Super Lucky's Tale, where they've gone back. Like, both are on there. Like, you can play the original if you really, really want to, but there's not too much of a point. But if you love those kind of more open world 3D action platformers, like New Super Lucky's Tale is one that I'm surprised like more people aren't championing for, like having another title in that world, because it went from like one base game to a VR experience, or like vice versa, and it came out with like the New Super Lucky's Tale, and that's the one that I think is like the best version of it. We always talk about like people making remakes and stuff like that, but New Super Lucky's Tale, it's such a good game. But yeah,
it is.
That's like the one that I wanted to kind of shout out for first off for indies. There's a bunch though.
Beautiful mascot platformer. It's kind of in the vein of Spyro or Crash. Easier and more approachable, I would think. If you liked Mario Odyssey, I think it lends itself very similarly in terms of gameplay. I have a strong affinity for that. I have a Super Lucky statue on one of my shelves that's over on the other side of the room. And we interviewed Paul Bettner on the show. The guy that created Super Lucky, also created Words with Friends, which is a super popular mobile title.
Played that for years.
Years, right? Like, that was the mobile game for a long time. And now Paul is exploring like NFT games, but not predatory. He's a part of like the small group of people that are exploring NFTs in a way that's not supposed to be exploitative, and I'm curious about it, but that's not a realm I like to go. But New Super Lucky's Tale, to me, absolutely great choice, because that mascot platform, it's so approachable. Any parent, there's a lot of good family games. Any parent that has an Xbox and Game Pass should check out New Super Lucky's Tale. I love that game.
Yeah. You got one that's like the polar opposite to a family friendly one?
Let's see. So I've got a lot. I would say one that has gone probably under people's radar, Zombie Army 4, Sniper Elite. But if that's a polar opposite, those are third-person shooters. They make great use of the X-ray slow motion camera, and you can in both games, Sniper Elite 5 and Zombie Army, you can adjust how often it goes into slow mo. I turn that mess all the way up, because it's like a Mortal Kombat fatality every time I pull the trigger. And I love that. So like, it's a mindless zombie shooting game in Zombie Army 4. There's zombie sharks and everything, and you're just mowing down zombies, and then you watch the blood and guts break apart as bullets like go through and pierce things. Like, Sniper Elite became famous for the testicle explosions. That was that was the guy
main drive.
For. Yeah, but to me, I just love popping skulls in that game, and I love killing zombies, and the thing about Zombie Army is like, well, they're Nazis and zombies, so like you don't feel bad on any front. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love Zombie. That's my polar opposite of Super Lucky, which is cool.
That's
and
funny.
Then we should note, and again, I wanted to avoid doing all Xbox franchises, but every Doom game is in Game Pass, and I am a diehard Doom fan. I love Dooms 1 through 3. I like the spin-offs with Final Doom. Doom 64 is in there, but all the mainline Dooms 1 through 3, 64, 2016 and Doom Eternal are all fantastic for different reasons. And I will tell you what, don't sleep on Doom 3. That is a horror game, and it's good. It's real good. You shouldn't play it, Logan, but everybody else should. It's
well,
good.
You're playing what is it? Bulletstorm? Not Bulletstorm.
Bolt Gun. I'm playing Bolt Gun right now.
That's what it's called. Yeah, you're playing Bolt Gun. And I wanted to it's funny that you bring up Doom because I know you're playing that, but one of the things that's coming to Game Pass, I think tomorrow as of the time of recording, is the Slayer's X game, which is like Bolt Gun, but just way messier and way more Doom-like. It's like a mix between Duke Nukem and Doom. And Slayer, it's from No More Robots. It's coming out tomorrow. It is Terminal a mature rated game.
Is that what it is?
Yep. Terminal the name is ridiculous. Slayer X Terminal Aftermath, Vengeance of the Slayer. So if you're in if it's like Duke Nukem and Doom had a baby, and threw it into like the high FPS that is current Doom, but the Bolt, I even forgot the Warhammer game. Bolt Gun. It is Bolt Gun. Okay. Like the Bolt Gun style of like 15 frames per second animation.
Yeah.
And so that's coming tomorrow. You can already pre-install that.
Yeah, so I'm looking at footage of that one. The Slayer's X looks more Duke Nukem-y.
Yeah.
Like doesn't take itself seriously, whereas Bolt Gun and the Doom games did take themselves seriously within their realm, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They weren't playing into the campiness of what the genre is.
Right.
Whereas this definitely is playing into the camp. It's like the Evil Dead Duke Nukem version of these games.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So those are good ones. I like those kind of classic vibes. And that's something that I think Game Pass is good for, is bringing attention to franchises. Like you can play all the old Elder Scroll game, not the all, but you can play a lot of the old Elder Scroll games, all the old Doom games, the old Prey is in there. Like I like when you can go through a franchise easily with ease of access. So that's a good one for me. All right, so I did my polar opposite of Super Lucky's Tale with my hyper violent stuff. Will you tell me like a hidden gem that you like in there?
A hidden gem, that's going to be Hard Space Shipbreaker. Hard Space Shipbreaker is you're an indentured servant to a company in space where you're trying to pay off your debt to be free, but it's in the realm of you being like a space, like just a lackey, just a big old construction lackey. But you get a suit and you're sent out into zero G, and you have to basically tear apart ships with a plasma cutter. But the problem is that the ship will have like parts that are worth something. Like you want to salvage certain parts, but there's other parts that you can just scrap. But you also have to take into account, like, you know, the oxygen lines that are running through the ship. You have to take into account the power lines, the power core itself, whether or not the cabin's pressurized, like what's that's going to do, because all of that factors into the physics of it. So you're floating around in zero G. You've got, you know, like oxygen that you have to maintain, plus power to your plasma cutter. You can tether onto things as well too. But it's one of those games that falls into the power wash simulator or lawnmower simulator, but without it being like labeled as a simulator, because obviously we don't do that kind of stuff. But Hard Space Shipbreaker is one of those chill out kind of relaxed games that if you want to watch something, or you want to like listen to a podcast and you want to do something like active, it is a fantastic game for that, to kind of navigate in zero G while you're cutting apart parts of a ship. And like once you detach like a wing or something like that, it'll kind of like it'll break apart and float in opposite directions, and you kind of have to like grab a piece and chuck it into, you know, send it off over into this giant incinerator that's like right in the space that you're working and stuff. And it's just a really well done game.
Would you say like it's a high stakes, like Twitch reactions, or real chill power wash style?
super chill.
Okay.
Like there are, you do have to be careful. Like you're using a plasma cutter around a power core. Like you can blow yourself up. So you got to be very careful about. Like how Dead Space has the plasma cutter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like a straight cut through there.
Yeah.
The plasma cutter for hard space is one that starts in the center and moves outward in
Mm-hmm.
a straight line. So it'll have like 2 points that'll split outwards.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be very precise with where you're cutting if you're cutting in sensitive areas. And they've got different areas of or
Manscaped
different.
advice. I get it.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
be gentle.
Gentle. Just yeah,
So,
don't
but
harm it.
yeah, that's one of my hidden gems. That's one of the ones that I think a lot of people, if you enjoy kind of those simulator games, like that's one that you might want to check out because it's unique in that you're in space and you're cutting apart ships. And you can do like small ships, you can start little, you can do giant ships, you can do huge ones that you spend a ton of time in.
That's cool. All right, I'm done with that one.
You
All
got
right,
anything like that, or
like
anything that's like a hidden gem?
hidden gem is yes, absolutely. There's a lot of hidden gems from the Xbox One era because I think a
Okay.
lot of people are checking out Xbox now by way of the Series S and X or cloud or PC. And there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of games they likely missed for one reason or another. And one that I think is a hidden gem, which will make people chuckle. But at one point, this was intended to be a launch exclusive. Was Peggle 2. A lot of
Oh,
people don't realize that Peggle 2 was a Game Pass game, but that's a really fun game
that
there.
is a really good game.
And then kind of two others from the Xbox One era that I want people to play are Recore. I think Recore is
Mm.
fantastic. I really love Recore. I keep telling myself I'm going to get that statue one day, and I almost pull the trigger. It's like one of those that I see on eBay late at night and I almost get it. But Recore is
Mm.
really good. It launched not well on Xbox One and then a year later got its definitive edition. And that's a really fun game. A
Interesting.
really fun game when it's not being asked to carry the burden of an Xbox exclusive,
Mhm.
which it is an Xbox exclusive, but it was asked to carry that weight that comes with being a console exclusive at a time when Xbox was suffering. Um, that's an unfair ask of a game like this because this is a double A game, but it's fantastic. It's really good. So I
Kind
would
of
push. Go ahead.
what kind of game is this?
Third person action
Uh-huh.
is an easy way to do it. You third person action shooter, and essentially you're a girl who I can see kind of in the reflection there. You're a girl named Jewel
Mm.
who is going about this planet. You have a trusty robot dog, and you can pick up a few other robot companions, and you need to get cores out of some of the bad guy robots and use those cores for good. And then there's a really
Oh.
fun, like relaxing combat style in there, but also there's this push and pull mechanic that's very similar to fishing when you extract cores from these bad robots. And like it's a good time. I would recommend people check out Recore. It's a really fun game that I think
That's
if
cool.
yeah, it when you're not asking it to carry the weight of being a console exclusive next to
Yeah.
is this better than Horizon or whatever, then you're enjoying yourself. So definitely check out Recore. And then the other
Huh.
one, I'm just going on Xbox launch stuff here, is Quantum Break. I really think Quantum Break is
Mm.
worth checking out because if
Just
you're go ahead.
this just got brought back to the store too because of licensing
License.
issues, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it's a nice following Remedy's path, right? If you've enjoyed Control and you checked out the Alan Wake remastered, or you're interested in Alan Wake 2, it's
Mhm.
kind of nice to go and see their pantheon of work. And Quantum Break was a really interesting experiment because they tied in a TV show that had multiple avenues that you would see different parts of an episode depending on what your choices were in the game. So you'd play a few hours of the game, watch an episode, and little things in the episode would change based on your choices in the game. It was a
Huh.
neat idea. I can't say that it was one that I would encourage again, but the gameplay alone is really interesting, especially because you can see the roots of Control or see the roots of likely Alan Wake 2, and that's cool.
That's really neat. Yeah, it
Yeah.
looks great. That's surprising. So there's one that I've been wanting to try,
Okay.
that I haven't gotten a chance to, and I wanted to see if you'd checked it out yet. And that's Rage 2.
Love Rage 2.
Rage 2 looks like one of those games that should have been the proper sequel to the Mad Max game.
Yep.
And that you could see the you can see the foundation was there, but something happened and they decided to swap it over to a sequel to Rage. But this is one, and funny enough, it's a Bethesda game, that I think a lot of people overlooked because there was just so much pink neon stuff going on around that time. And it just kind of got lumped into games that I think everyone was like, oh, well, this is like New Dawn for Far Cry. And it's like, oh, great. Another game where they're trying to be like super edgy and trying to push the limits and stuff. But everything that I've seen for Rage 2 looks like one of those awesome, fun games of just like a mindless shooting action that you can go in and have a good time with and not really care like too much. So it's one that I want to check out, that I recommend other folks give it a shot to, because everything I've seen looks great.
It is great. I really enjoyed Rage 2, not for its story, but there is a lot of cool stuff. It is a Bethesda game, and it's got that id Tech for gunplay. Essentially, what this is it's an open world Doom for its time. And what your Raid, the original Rage was a visual stunner on Xbox 360 and PS3. It was just incredibly beautiful. But Rage 2 kind of went through an identity crisis of what they wanted it to be. But in Rage 2, you can do a lot of the open world Far Cry-esque map clearing. And as you go through and discover stuff, you get yourself more powerful. You get abilities. There are abilities in the game and really cool weapons in the game. You can even find connections to Doom in the game and Wolfenstein in the game, which leads to speculation of what if. But it's open world, incredible id Tech gunplay, which is really fun. Like the shotguns feel great. The machine guns feel really good. The driving's not even that bad. There's some cool driving segments in there because you can drive around this open world and go and clear encampments of I don't know what they're called, bandits of some kind. But it is a really fun game. That is one of my favorite games from the Xbox One, PS4 era that gets overlooked. It's one of those gems that people shouldn't miss. That I think, if you have access to Game Pass, this is exactly the kind of game to play over a few weekends. You know what I mean? Just put on, turn your brain off, listen to a podcast, put a show in the background and play. Good choice. Real good choice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Let's see here. If you're into racing, obviously the Forza Horizon franchise is really good. But I feel like people come to Xbox knowing about Forza Horizon. A game that's not talked about as often, but it is really good, is Hot Wheels Unleashed.
Yeah.
That is in Game Pass, and that is a great racing game.
It is fun.
Do you play? So you played that one then?
I played a little bit of it, yeah. Well, because they've got all the licensed cars in there for Hot Wheels, and it's like it's a lot to download. I'll say that. But they've got like in it's one of those weird ones where it looks like they were supposed to be like a microtransaction store, and they backed out at the last minute because all the hooks are there, but everything that you get is all like loot box and like store oriented. So like all the currency is stuff you earn in game, but it's all done through like loot boxes. So it's like you can see that they were hoping that they could make this like a microtransaction game, but they decided not to for whatever reason. And this did come out like right before Forza Horizon 5. And it was one of those ones where it was like, it wasn't on Game Pass, and if you wanted to get it, you had to purchase it outright. And with it being so close to Forza 5, it was like, I think I'll just play Forza 5. I think I'll just wait for that.
Because Forza had a Hot Wheels connection.
Yeah.
In Forza 4?
Yeah. No, 5.
It was 5.
But it was before we knew that Hot Wheels was coming out, as far as I remember. Because it was just like, why if I'm going to play like an arcade racer, I might as well jump into Forza 5 because it's like right around the corner.
And I think that's what cost it, because I like the licenses stuff. Like, what to Forza's detriment, Forza doesn't do, like, you don't get to play the car from Knight Rider. You don't get to play the car from Back to the Future. They had the Cyberpunk thing, and that's it. But in Hot Wheels, man, too, the Ninja Turtles van is in there. You're racing against the Batmobile. You're racing against those, like, off-brand, like, not off-brand, but like the Joker van. You know, like, there's no Joker van in Batman, really, but like he's got one. There are cars for each Ninja Turtle as well as the Turtle van. There's a really cool DC expansion where you can play as different cars from the DC universe, but also like drive through the Bat Cave and stuff, which is really neat. And then there's this really cool like world level building thing, which is cool. So there was a train game on there that was in like those old toy wooden trains. Oh. Do you remember this? Do you remember that, like the ones that you would give like a 2-year-old back in the day that was always at the doctor's office?
Yeah, like the little block trains and stuff. Is that what you're talking about? It wasn't like a game that was like that? That would be an interesting game.
It is a game. It is a game. And it's super easy and fun, and people really, it was in Game Pass.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if it still is. I should have looked that up, but it just occurred to me. Here, I'm going to change our tone while you're looking that one up. Mass Effect is in there. A lot of the EA stuff people overlook as well. If you have a Game Pass Ultimate, all the old EA games are in there, including Mass Effect. And they also do game trials, so you can check out all the sports games and all the new stuff, get 10 hours in there. But I was noticing that, you know, all the old Mass Effects are in there. So if you are wanting like a single player story romp, you've got hundreds of hours of story gameplay in that. So that's cool.
It's about as Star Wars as you can get without it being actually Star Wars. And honestly, though, I would skip 1. 1 is pretty boring, in my opinion. 2's where you get a lot more action, and it's just it's a better written story, in my opinion. 3 is really good. I don't know about Andromeda. I haven't played it since they went back and changed the ending, I think, for that one. Or no, I think maybe it was 3. I think 3 was the ending that they changed. But the Legendary Edition's out. So there's a lot of quality of life that came out. That's on Game Pass.
Nice. There you go.
Can't find this train one, though.
If I knew the name, I'd tell you.
Yeah.
If I knew the name, I'd tell you. So.
There was another one that I was...
Yeah, tell me some stuff on your mind.
If you haven't played... Outer Worlds... Outer Worlds is Obsidian. It is it's probably going to be something that if you're waiting for Starfield and you haven't picked up Outer Worlds, like, you're missing out, because Outer Worlds has got some of the best comedy in a game I think I've ever played. There have been so many legit moments where I've been cracking up laughing. In Obsidian, not the strongest when it comes to gunplay, like obviously like id and Bethesda. Well, like mostly id, I would say. They've got like gunplay down, but it's workable. You get companions with you. You get to run around. There's different factions. You get to make a lot of choices with those factions. There's only one NPC in the entire game that you can't kill. And it doesn't matter who you kill. You can kill anyone you want. It's not going to kill your game, because the one person that does matter, the one person that you that is mission critical to being able to finish the game, is one that you actually can't kill. And I've tried multiple times, and I've talked to the devs about it, and they admit there is, because they've said, like, in the past, they're like, oh yeah, you can shoot anyone you want. It's not going to kill the game. You won't lose the ability to finish the game. You'll have a different ending, but you won't be able to finish the game. And it's like, what about this dude? And they're like, okay, yeah, that one guy. You can't, but everyone else you can murder. It doesn't matter. So there's a lot of fun to be had. But honestly, most of the characters that you could kill that would be like shortening a storyline, I actually really like, because they're all really funny. So just the only problem that I have with that game is encumbrance. And it's the only issue that I think I have with most like Bethesda or Obsidian titles is encumbrance. I hate having to deal with like management for that stuff. But outside of that, like, Outer Worlds is an amazing game. Really, really good. And naturally built around the idea that you don't have to worry about colorblind modes, because the entire game is designed to have colors that are different enough to take into account all of the different spectrums of colorblindness.
That's a neat little
Weird little
aspect that I
fact.
did not know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's cool. Cool. All right. Nice. Let's see.
What else you got? Because I got a question for you about one of them. Because you were around during the beginning of the Xbox One era.
Okay. I was going to say about Wreckfest. If you ever played Burnout,
Yep.
and we were talking about racing games, Wreckfest is in there, and wrecking some game or some vehicles is hilarious. You can ride lawnmowers and couches as well as like stock cars and all stuff. And the whole point is to wreck things. That's a fun game for that one. So
That's
I wanted
a
to
good
point
one.
that one. What's your question?
Okay. There's one on here that everyone talks about. Everyone says is like a must play and stuff like that. So I gotta know. Rise, Son of Rome. Did you jump into it?
I played that one when COVID hit because I tried to play it when. No, I did not play the Xbox One beginning like years because I was PS4. Because I went from 360 to PS4 because of how Xbox was treating its customers.
Yeah.
And so I didn't dive in on Xbox One. And so when I got one, I tried it and then didn't put it down. And then during COVID, I think it was COVID, I went through Rise in the last 5 years. And I don't get why people think that one's such a good one. It's not that
Interesting.
great. I don't understand it. It tried to do some stuff with Kinect that didn't obviously work when I played it. At least not well. And so I don't quite know why people love Rise so much. I think it's because it was Crytek, and I think people really wanted the visual element of the Xbox One. But you got to remember that Xbox One original, like the VCR, was a 900p system, and
Yeah, it was bad.
this game was its visual, showcase, and it just didn't stack up. So I don't actually like Rise that much. But I know there are a ton of diehard like Xbox acolytes that love it. I thought it was generic at best. And so when people talk about Rise 2, maybe I'll eat my words, but like they're like, "Oh, we need Rise 2." No, you don't. No, you don't. You need there are some games you need to give sequels to and justify that the creative vision. Like you could justify the creative vision of a Crackdown if you took another crack at it and didn't bog it down. You could see you could see the creative vision be explored with that. You could see it with Recore. They've really explored Forza's creative vision with Horizon over the years and its installments. But Rise, I don't think truly has anything that other games aren't doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm wrong, and I will gladly eat my words because I love playing good games. So
fair enough.
Logan, did you Dead Cells? Dead Cells is in Game Pass, and this is a wonderful game, I think.
Dead Cells is good. I'm not a huge roguelike fan though. So I 100% recognize that Dead Cells is a fantastic game and that you can go super deep on the meta on that depending on the play style that you like. But I am not a huge Hades is probably the most time I've ever spent with a roguelike because I don't like losing full progress. It's why I don't play hardcore mode for Diablo games. Because if I die, I just want to go back and get my stuff. I don't want to start over from scratch. I feel like I've lost. It's like deleting your account. Like, why would you do that? So, but I recognize like Dead Cells, definitely a fantastic game. Very, very tight when it comes to controls as well too.
I want to point people to checking out the Xbox kind of legacy titles in there. We mentioned some of them, but don't miss the Ori games. If you want a good like story to play through, I mentioned Mass Effect, but like the Master Chief Collection, playing through the Halo franchise is really fun, solo or with a friend. There's people often talk about Halo, they go to the multiplayer or single player only, but if you're going just single player, there's a lot of fun to just be had in those games. I mentioned Quantum Break. I didn't want anybody to sleep on Minecraft Dungeons. That's a fun Diablo light. Like if you've got a kiddo and you're getting the Diablo itch, but yeah, it's just a little too violent or dark for you. Minecraft Dungeons is a good time, and it really eases them into that style of a game.
Yeah, definitely is.
Yeah, tell me some stuff.
So I want to toss out Disney Dreamlight Valley is a great Animal Crossing on Xbox that you don't have to buy. So if you love Animal Crossing, or if you have folks that talk about that and you want to have like that kind of Sim City, but not with like controlling like your whole life, you just want to like build, help things out. Great little campaign. Metal Hellsinger is a fantastic bullet hell game that is a rhythm based shooter. kind of in the essence of like Doom. But then there's also the other one. What was the other one that I wanted to shout out as like a quick aside? I'm trying to find it right now. As we go through, you got anything you want to jump in while I'm trying to find this one?
Yeah, no problem. Let's point to Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight. If you like Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Ori and the Blind Forest, I would say give Hollow Knight a shot. It's harder than Ori, and that might bounce some people off of it, but its lighting and style is beautiful and very unique, I think. So if you like intense platforming and really kind of pixel combat, but in that realm of Ori, and you want to up your game, check out Hollow Knight for sure. I think that's a really good one. And then if that's not your cup of tea and you want something on the lighter side, I think it's Outright, but games, but whoever makes like a DC Super Pets is on there, which is kind of just a fun, real chill one. And I wish I had to look up the developer, but DC Super Pets is there, and then Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga is there.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a great one for the fam. If you are wanting to get some of those like award-winning indies, Death's Door is now on Game Pass, and that's a really good game. That's a really good game. Side note, for XEP, even before 2023, when I was breaking them out separately, there are a lot of interviews with a lot of the games we've talked about in like the XEP's like history. So like I talked to the Death's Door developers, Valheim developers, Ori developers, and so many more, New Super Lucky's Tales. In 2023, I broke out the interviews separate, so it's easier to find the more recent ones, but they're part of the show. If you search it, it's in there, and so you could find a lot of those. That's how I got to 100 plus, was targeting Xbox exclusives and Xbox Game Pass games.
Yeah. Last two I think I'll toss out there.
Okay.
One is super heavy for emotions, so go into it expecting that it's going to be something that could potentially trigger people if they have any trauma in their life that they want to avoid. But Sea of Solitude is a very unique indie game that is slow paced, but one that addresses emotional stress and coping with like disjointed families and stuff. Very interesting game. Very, very interesting game. The other one, if you're missing out on the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom stuff right now, because maybe you don't have a Switch or you haven't invested in that, but you're getting that itch to play something like a Zelda like, Immortals Phoenix Rising is basically Breath of the Wild with kind of Roman gods kind of built in there. Same kind of cartoon-esque style, but a really, really good game. That is basically just, it's Breath of the Wild. I don't know how they managed to turn it around so quickly, but yeah, that's a great game if you haven't played that.
That's a good choice. I'll spotlight Hitman. The Hitman franchise is on Game Pass, and those are hours and hours of great games to play for sure. That's a good one. And I interviewed David Bateson, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
This is David Bateson. So that's what you said. You had two to close out.
Yeah, those are the two that I so Sea of Solitude and Immortals be my last couple ones.
Yes, I'm sorry you said both of them. I love Immortals, but Sea of Solitude I've not touched.
It's one of those ones that you got to go into knowing that it's going to be emotional. If you've ever dealt with like a broken home or like bad relationships, things like that, like, and they warn you ahead of the time too, but it is a good game. I think they did a good job with it.
Nice. All right, man. Well, we went even over our time, and I didn't even finish my list. Which is crazy. But if you guys in the comment section want to drop some of your favorite Game Pass games, that'd be awesome, because it might be stuff that we've missed, gems that we have not checked out, and it helps point people to kind of just more games in general. Game Pass is so big that sometimes we forget or we miss stuff for sure. Logan, let people know where they can find you on your socials.
I'm going to be over on Twitter at CAPT_LOGUN, or you can find me for the probably the next couple weeks in the Diablo channel over in the patron Discord. So if you want to join up with other folks who enjoy the show and you're a patron, definitely check us out over in the Discord.
There you go. Guys, you can find me on Twitter at InsipidGhost. Thank you so much for being patrons of XEP, especially at Tier 3. At the time of recording, we are 1 Tier 3 patron from 10, which means I have to eat a double down from KFC, and I'm not excited about it. I'll tell you that right now. But we really appreciate you guys are our financially most supportive group, and we really appreciate that because well, it just means a lot. So thank you guys. All right, that's going to be it for us. Have a great rest of your week, day, month, year, whatever it is. Take care, everybody.